think we'll go ahead and get started, everyone. My name is Rick Branham, and I'm SirsiDynix's Vice President of Content Solutions. And my co-presenter today is Maryska Connolly, who is our CloudSource Director of Partnerships and Content.
And communications.
And communications. And I'm just dreaming of walking into the
I know.
for you.
To make this more work.
That's right. But Maryska's going to start us out today. We're going to, then I'll jump in a moment for it.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
So I want to start out by talking about what is CloudSource. CloudSource is a new platform from SirsiDynix, and it aggregates the global body of open access resources that are available with no fuss, one-click access. This allows you to leverage not only your typical scholarly resources, but you get peer-reviewed articles, open educational resources or OER, e-textbooks, and a variety of other materials. And most importantly, it allows you to leverage how you manage your collection. So typically, we subscribe to articles and databases that support our academic mission. But with CloudSource OA, the idea is to have the bulk of your collection come from high-quality, peer-reviewed open access resources, and then strategically spend your collection dollars on particular targeted things that you want in your collection. It also improves the user experience by allowing, as I mentioned before, one-click, no authentication, no login required access to these resources. This also allows you to expand the reach of your libraries. If you're not fussing with proxy services, you can include your guest users, your alumni, your community members in the use of these resources. And also, in addition to what you would normally collect, having a bulk of your collection come from high-quality open access resources means that you can expand beyond your normal offerings to support other disciplines, other areas of interest. And again, we're talking scholarly articles, ebooks, e-textbooks, open educational resources, so you have a range of materials in here. And more importantly, you can save money on your subscription databases and any third-party discovery tools. So the bulk of the CloudSource collection that we have indexed includes mostly OA articles, ebooks, textbooks, and OER. But our CloudSource Plus customers can also add on their licensed content into that same discovery experience. We have a suite of robust tools that clean up a lot of these very thin records you often get for open educational and OA resources, and allows that discovery experience to be a lot more robust for your end users. So for your users, they can access it on their desktop, on their tablets, and of course, on their mobile devices and cell phones, which I think a lot of them tend to use. Out of the box, it comes with several different mobile themes that are easy to turn on and to implement. Now, on your staff user side, they can pull standard counter usage reports, which I know we all need for accreditation and reporting. They can manage their open access resources, and if they're a CloudSource Plus customer, you can come and manage your subscribed content in the same platform. Let's back up a little bit and talk a bit more about what open access is. And I know this is probably familiar ground to all of you, but I think it's important to talk about. So open access is free and immediate access to digital content. It can cover a lot of different things. It can be text-based, which we're used to. Open access can include software. It can include ebooks and e-textbooks. And also, under that umbrella of OA, you have the open educational resources. Open educational resources can be, they allow your students to have free, no fuss access to educational content, including course packets, ebooks, tutorials, and a variety of other materials. The idea being that it can cut down on their access issues and barriers, and also allow them to mitigate expenses related to taking college courses, which we know is just as expensive on textbooks as it is for the library sometimes. Let's talk about open access by the numbers. Frankly, there's a lot of it. 4.6 million OA academic articles are available today. 31% of all scholarly academic articles are OA. 6.1 million OA articles were published just in 2022. which is about almost 60% of all articles published that year, which is a huge percentage. And this is the one that I always find most interesting. Only 16% of these articles come from strictly open journals. So your gold and your diamond journals, these are the ones you get through DOAJ. So the other 84% comes from hybrid journals, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I think a lot of libraries think if they go into their content provider or discovery layer and turn on DOAJ, you've got it covered. You've got the open access content. When the truth is you're only getting 16% of it. And what's driving this is the funders. Started with, the STEM field and NIH requiring research that was published to be open, but it's expanded to all government entities, a lot of private organizations such as Wellcome Trust and the Gates Foundation. The European Commission also requires that scholarly works be open if they're funded in any way with these grant monies. So if anything, we're seeing the trend go up and up on this. If you look at the chart here on the right, you'll see that we expect by 2040, about 100% of peer-reviewed articles to be available with some kind of OA licensing. That's, I think about a decade ago, if you were to look at the numbers, you'd see about 70% of the scholarly articles that are published were behind a paywall. They were paid content that you had to subscribe to. And now we're at, I think, 54% that are currently open every year that comes out, and that trend is going up and up quickly. I'll actually note on this too that as of last year, I believe in August, the White House Office for Science and Technology updated a memo that had been written several years earlier that required government-funded research to be available, including data sets, open access, but they removed the 12-month embargo period, which was a huge change. So let's talk about those hybrid journals. The Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, as I mentioned, is 16% of all of your open content. The rest are in hybrid journals, so that's 84%. It's a whopping amount. And these live right next to paid content. So the articles will exist right next to paywall articles in the same issues, which makes them very hard to discover. These hybrid journals are from the top publishers that want to include content from OA authors. And that's partly because the people who are getting grant funding are the people doing the most interesting and exciting research. They're not going to leave those out of these issues, so they've learned to make room for them. And these funders include universities, research centers, foundation, government agencies, institutions, consortia. At last count, there was about 300 of them worldwide. So there's a lot of people funding this research. And the hybrid journals, they're doing just fine. They really haven't made a whole lot of changes. That they will still charge you the same amount for that subscription, even if 60% of what's in that issue is open content. In addition to that, they often charge article processing charges to the publishers of OA content. So when we take a look at SciEgo's data for the top 20 journals, and this was pulled on April of this year, so just recently, what we see is that most of them are at least 50% OA. Many of them are either at 100% or approaching 100%. These are the top publications that we're working with. So we've got 100,000 journals publishing in OA, and all very highly ranked journals. And they're coming from the traditional publishers. Anyone who's worked in libraries for any length of time knows these are the big players. They have to publish OA because they want that exciting new research. And they're not lowering their standards. So what you're getting is as quality research and scholarly information as you would get for a paywalled article, except you're probably paying for this materials right now. Originally started out with STEM, kind of early to late 90s. There was a big push from within the scientific community itself, but we've seen large amounts of growth. Tripped over my own tongue there, in OA disciplines that they're coming from. We don't just have medicine anymore. We don't just have STEM. We've seen a lot of growth in the social sciences and across all disciplines. So this is not something for medical libraries anymore who want to subscribe to PubMed. This is content for everyone. And again, it's going up rapidly. This represents a particular multidisciplinary database that if I were to mention, you'd probably know who I was talking about. What we find a lot with databases is you'll hear from your vendor, oh, it's got 10% of OA content in that database. But what they're talking about are the gold and diamond journals. If you take all of the articles in that database, in this case published since 2017, and compare them to what's available in open access, in this particular database, it was 70% of it that was available via OA, which is a huge percentage. And again, libraries are paying for this, just full price at this point. And that's not just this one disciplinary database. We've got another range of example ones that we've done that same comparison on. These are not trade journals. These are not popular magazines. These are scholarly databases that we're looking at. You know, the lowest one on here, I think, is 52%. The highest one is 98%, which begs the question, how much are you paying for that is freely available in your library? I'm going to turn this over to Rick since I've talked specifics and let him get a little more in the weeds.
Thank you, Maryska. And so Maryska talked about some trends in OA publishing, and I'm going to turn more to how we can help with CloudSource OA. So CloudSource OA is an aggregated collection of open access content. Our intent is to surface any known scholarly open access article or ebook or e-textbook or other OER resources. So we are indeed pulling in any known open access resource, and we're enhancing that metadata with things like fields of study. We're using some clever tools developed by one of our partners at our research, the Open Alex project, to expand the metadata to include field of study information and subject headings and mesh headings and additional keywords. Those are just some of the fields that are included in this metadata enhancement that we do. I think it's instructive for us to look at how CloudSource discovery compares with other discovery services. And there's a specific thing I want to highlight as we look at this, and that is the amount of hybrid content that your users are finding in these other discovery tools, and how, again, you're likely paying for that hybrid content, even though they're published with an OA license. So for this comparison, I compared Google Scholar, a Clairvit Primo site that I'm not going to name, EBSCO Discovery Service site, again, that I've anonymized, and CloudSource OA. But the Primo example is from a U.S. Carnegie R1 library, and the EDS example also from a U.S. Carnegie R1 library. And I used the search term artificial intelligence, and I limited, where possible, to full text. Google Scholar doesn't have such a filter, but of course with CloudSource, it's all full text. And then the source I used was academic journals, and again, Google Scholar doesn't have a filter for academic journals, so just keep that in mind. So the search I did for artificial intelligence on Google Scholar, again, these are the top dozen hits that came back, or top 10, I should say. And I'm just noting that 4 of those were open access. One of them was an actual book, and then the others are books. A lot of people think if they're searching Google Scholar, they're getting articles, but even though it says it's an article search, there are lots of ebooks included. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. And then I'll just note that a couple of those open access articles were from hybrid journals. That same search I conducted on Clairvit, again, Primo, but with the filter to look just at academic articles and just at full text, yielded a result of everything open access. So again, all the hits that came up were open access, and every one of them were from a hybrid journal. So again, you're only seeing those results because this institution is paying for that journal. And on an EDS hit, about half of the results, a little more than half, were open access, and all of them except for one were hybrid. And then of course with CloudSource, all the results are open access. Again, because we're looking at CloudSource OA, that's the OA collection. We also do offer an expanded CloudSource Plus, which includes your licensed content. But the OA results, all open, and 4 of those were hybrid. So again, my point of this was to illustrate that users are typically finding open access results when they search your library's discovery layer. That's what's coming up. It may not be apparent to the end user that this is actually open access content, and a lot of the content is actually from hybrid journals. How easy is it for the user to get full text for OA hits? So I wanted to do a quick example search against Google Scholar. And again, you're finding that third one is actually an article, and it is actually open access. But to the uninitiated end user, Google Scholar is going to try to trick you to buy that article or log into your institution. It's not obvious, even though after several attempts you may be able to find your way to a full text link. It is not obvious and clear. This is the Primo site. And again, search for artificial intelligence and have limited to open access and full text. Primo lets you limit to open access articles. EDS does not. And I was able to click on that full text link, and look what the user gets. Just a giant menu of options to plow through to try to find their way to full text, even though this is clearly an open access article. So a lot of options for the end user. And then on the EDS site, again, same search, same limiters to full text and academic journals. And then it's not clear to the user that any of these are OA. There's no designation, there's no filter to look at OA results. And then upon finding an article, again, this took me to London University. And finally, there is a link to eventually get me to full text. The boxes you see, I'm just masking what institution I'm using to. There you go. So again, quite a fraught path to try to find full text for the end user. And on CloudSource OA, just to give you that stinks. My slide's not working for the CloudSource OA yet. But we'll move along, and I will jump in and show you that in a moment. I just want to cover something that we offer. The Maryska, I think, referred to our collection analysis service. This is a free service that we can offer. All we ask is that you send us a list of your subscription databases and additionally a breakdown by journal titles. If you have that information, and can pull it, and we will then do a detailed analysis and provide you with a couple of documents as a result that will break down the OA overlap by database and by journal. And we also include in that analysis your ability to drill down by subject areas too, so you can get a real feel for what's included in the resulting analysis by subject or discipline. And we'll also show you all of the journals that you'll receive that you don't subscribe to now. So we have a section that shows you expanded access. So we give you a summary report that walks you through our methodology and the kind of an overview of the results of your analysis, and breakdown by database is that slide. We also show you, by the way, your A&I subscriptions have added value if you've got CloudSource underneath, because certainly we can surface all of the OA results for your A&I subscriptions, and there's quite a bit of open access available for those A&I databases to get more value out of that. And then we show you a detailed spreadsheet that breaks everything down, again, by package, so you can get a clear view of what your overlap for databases are, and then we highlight those A&I subscriptions and what their overlap rates are. And then we step you through kind of a complete picture of your results, pointing out things that are not publishing any longer, things that aren't publishing away at all. So we give you a clear picture of the results. Some key takeaways I want to highlight. First of all, take advantage of this free collection analysis. There's absolutely no commitment at all. This is private information, not shared with anyone. It's just an internal result set that we give to you. But we do that breakdown, again, by overlap. We show you our expanded coverage. This will help you get a clear picture of just how much is out there. Also, we think we can deliver a better user experience. Rather than just turn your users loose on Google Scholar, which if you haven't looked at that recently, go look and put yourself in the mind of a student trying to find good research articles on a particular topic. We also believe that we can save you a lot of time. If you're trying to curate sources of OA content and put them on the LibGuides page and then expect your students to use that effectively, we think this is a better opportunity of presenting everything in one place with really good discovery tools that are available. And then also, we can save you money on your subscription databases, on your high OA databases, and the cost per use. This is an early analysis, and we did a sampling of different library types, and it ranges from 19 cents per use. The highest one was $2, but to be fair, they had just turned this on recently, so it's a very small window. One of our CloudSource customers at Gannon University, Betsy Garlick, I did look at our ILL request numbers and confidently say our ILL requests have dropped 60% as a result of making the move to CloudSource Plus. Along with better access to OA published materials, my library was able to cancel our discovery tool using a portion of the savings toward the purchase of a much needed publisher package. That's an area that many people don't think about, but suddenly having this vast trove of OA resources in one place can really put an impact in what you're spending on OA and document delivery services. So thank y'all for that. And do I have a minute left? No, we're at time. But look, y'all, we're doing Thursday at
Oh my gosh.
2. Sorry, I just want to give a plug before y'all walk out of here. I should have this memorized. But Thursday at 2:40 in Salon 1, we're going to do an expanded look at CloudSource with, and you'll see more of the product if you're interested. And if you come to that, that'll make up for my slide that didn't play.
We'll actually be here as well.
Yeah, Mississippi
Yes.
State University is going to be talking to us about their experience in analyzing their collections and what the results have been. So we hope y'all will come to that. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you.